We have an update from Gina Carano, and Disney had their quarter three earnings call. How did that go? We'll talk about that and more on Midnight's Edge in the morning. Greetings, everybody. We made it through another week. It's Friday. We have Andre with us. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
I'm here.
I'm sadly not in Vegas, where with our other friends, but hey ho, next time.
And joining us this morning, we have our buddy Valiant Renegade. How you doing?
Oh, good morning, Tom. Good morning, Andre, and good morning to the chat out there at Midnight's Edge. Doing good. Glad to be here today, guys.
Oh, we have Force of Light Entertainment in the chat. How are you ladies doing?
Hey. They have a great channel, everyone. If you haven't done so already, go check out Force of Light Entertainment. They've also been on Toxic Femininity. We're great guests there. So we look forward to having them on.
Speaking of lovely ladies, we also have this lovely lady in the chat, Andre.
Yes, we have who says, "Hi, gents. Hello, everyone," with a smiley and a diamond. So that is excellent.
Yeah. And hello, Destiny Captain. He asks, do we have a tip jar? I'd rather use it. Well, it looks like you found it.
Yeah, I think you found it. We have a couple of tip jars, but that's probably the easiest and most accessible one.
Other than PayPal, which you deal with less bull, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it looks like we got Tim Hayes here. Hello. Red Lantern's Rage. Hopefully you don't rage too much in the chat. Sander Hammerslag's hanging in there this morning. Duck Nation's here. Hello. Fractal Jack. We've got 6 in the chat. Hello. Fat Elvis is here instead of Skinny Elvis. Donnie Knupp. Welcome.
And Troy Pacelli has seen Valiant Renegade's video premiere this morning. We shared that on Twitter, and that was, of course, as expected, excellent, because Valiant Renegade comes from the world of banking and business like myself, so some great text there, and I look very much forward to what you have to say on Disney's earnings report, so that should be awesome. Before that, though, we do have a couple of more super chats to go through. Regrettably, we can no longer bring them up on screen here, but I can, in some fashion at the very least, see them behind the scenes here, although the studio still isn't working the way that it's supposed to. Durao On started us off with €10, saying, "Just got back from holidays." This actually, we got this one already. He got back from holidays, and we're so glad to have you back again, Durao On. Then we have Xenobit. I'm just going to refresh here because it's not completely up to speed here. We had Destiny Captain, and we had then we are actually up to speed. Almost up to speed. Spider Unlimited said, Andre Hexan. That's a great vintage Swedish horror movie from, I believe, 1922. It's not as well known, but it should be right up there with Nosferatu. Hexan in Swedish means the witch. That's kind of what it's about. So absolutely check that out. Then we also have Stephen Otten saying, "Hail Andre, Tom, Valiant, Wrenches, and Chat. Finally, a movie that looks like it's worth seeing. Welcome back, Gina."
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yes, we're going to get into that.
And I just want to say, as far as the tip jar thing, I mean, if you're talking about the actual app or whatever tip jar, because I think there is one called that. No, we don't have that specific app, but the best way to do it is PayPal or Super Chats.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way.
And our good friend and associate, Mexican Iron Man, says for $15, "Hey guys, Andre and Tom, I agree with Troy. Great video this morning, Valiant. Have a good show today, gents. Stuck at work."
Yeah, poor Mike. He went through all the paperwork last night to help us break it down this morning, and he ended up having to work. So hopefully he isn't working too hard.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do, and we always appreciate the time, and we look forward to having you on once opportunity permits.
And Jason, I totally get this too, and this is why we also have a PayPal. So
yes, if you check the
if you feel more comfortable doing that, that's fine too.
The description, there's PayPal. Then you're just paying Elon Musk a little share,
and they don't take nearly as much. But if not, you know what? If you can't, that's okay too. You can always share out the stream. We try to pay attention to the chat as much as possible, so we don't require it or ask that you do that. But it is always appreciated if you can, of course.
It is most welcome because, this platform doesn't always help as much all on its own. But with that, we only have Valiant for a limited time here. So let us start breaking down the news. Valiant, what was it that Disney presented yesterday, and what lessons could be gleaned from it?
Well, yesterday afternoon, following the market close, Disney, of course, released their fiscal Q3 results. So calendar year, fiscal years different for companies. Calendar year, that would be the end of the second quarter, ending June 30th. But for Disney's fiscal calendar, how they calculate their annual revenues, that was Disney's actually their third quarter. So when you hear Q3 and all that, a lot of people get confused. They think, well, usually we get those in November. Well, this is a fiscal quarter. So in any case, the highlights, overall, it seemed like Disney reported some good numbers. And it wasn't terribly surprising. The big cash cow for Disney is and has always been and will continue to be for quite the foreseeable future their parks and resorts, which was the division, of course, Bob Chapek helmed for the last several years before taking over the reins as CEO of Disney. But the parks and resorts, obviously, you've got a lot more traffic this Q3 than you did 2020's Q3 for obvious reasons. At that point last year, you had most of the parks either had limited capacity or shut down completely for a portion, if not the entire Q3. And this year was very much the opposite. They seem to have at or near capacity traffic, particularly in the Orlando park, the big one, Walt Disney World, which is still their biggest generator. So all in all, it was good news. Now, of course, a lot of these numbers and these reports were prepared, before a lot of this new discussion with possibly going back into at least some degree of lockdown mode, at least in some places, because of this new variant of the bug. And of course, they discussed that it's fluid. So if things start getting a little bit more clamped down, of course that's going to affect their outlook. But as far as the parks and resorts are concerned, sales of merchandising, they specifically mentioned sales of Star Wars merchandise in Galaxy's Edge as being a leader, and I wonder which merch that is.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
It ain't Secret Trilogy merch anymore. You can't find that in Galaxy's Edge. It's all classic Star Wars and Favreau Filoniverse stuff, and that's what's blowing it out.
And because of that, numbers are up.
Yep, numbers are up. Numbers are doing well on the merchandising side, which is also a division that Bob Chapek used to run before he ran the parks, so he knows that intimately well. It's one of the reasons why Chapek was named CEO. He's basically run every major division at Disney at some point in his career. So he's definitely a very business guy. Now, what everybody, of course, was curious about is what did the Disney Plus numbers look like? And this is where things get more interesting. Second quarter results that we got 3 months ago or so, a lot of people seem to view it as a relative stagnation of numbers. The growth wasn't quite what they had hoped for. This quarter, they definitely got some more robust growth than they had. They popped up about another 11 million subs. However, there is a caveat to that. The largest single share of that was not in the U.S., of course, just like before. This is the growth mainly of Hotstar in India, their international service. And you can see it in the numbers. And unfortunately, Disney, like many places, they really don't break down region by region where subscribers are coming from. If anything, you might get, here's domestic U.S. subscribership and then everybody else internationally, and it kind of gets lumped together, and they never really release those. Disney doesn't even really break that out. As far as Disney Plus is concerned, the interesting thing was, and as we've discussed before, as I've said on my channel, everybody looks at total numbers as being the end all be all. But for me, the total numbers are great, but what's the ARPUs, the average revenue per user? So for every Disney Plus account that you have, how much money are you making on average for each subscriber that you have on the books? Well, Disney Plus is actually one of the poorest ARPUs of all the streaming market out there. And it has been. And I've said that, I think Disney has kind of done that deliberately, is they're making this, I don't want to say a loss leader. They're not losing on it, but they're shorting themselves on this because they wanted to try to get as rapid an expansion as they could with streaming services across the global market. And of course, they still have more markets that they discussed on the call that they're still going to be opening up in the next 3 to 6 months. So you can expect subscribership to continue to bloom, over the course of the next several months. The question becomes, how many of those are really coming from the U.S.? You're going to see more international growth than U.S. growth at this point. Now, ARPU at Disney last quarter 2, when you factored in total across the board, global ARPU was about $4.65. To give you a comparison, okay, Discovery, which is run by David Zaslav, who's going to be taking over ostensibly the new spin-off merger between them and AT&T's Warner next year. That ARPU for Discovery Plus is over $11. It's about right at $11 per user. And that's on the $5 a month plan for Discovery. $5, and they're making 11. Ad revenue is the other 6. If you pay the $10 a month for no ads for Discovery, they're making about $10 a month on that one. So David Zaslav has a knack for it. HBO Max, $11.90. They just reported that a few weeks ago with AT&T's quarterly report. So they're making $11.90 on HBO, average revenue per user, and that includes their new $9.99 ad-based subscription, which I think is going to eventually drive that $11.90 higher, because I don't think much of that has been factored in yet. So Disney was sitting around $4.65. So this quarter, they just reported yesterday, Disney's average revenue per user is now around $4.16, I believe. So it dropped another 12%. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the subscriber growth that they reported, those 11 million new subs, were by and large coming from international markets where the subscription fees for D Plus are much less. They do have some ad-based, like Hotstar in India is ad-based. So they're paying a lot less than we are here in the States. So we got the price hike from $7.99 a month to $8.99 a month or whatever it was. And then they open up Hotstar over in India, where obviously the median income over there is much different than what we have here in the U.S. So they're charging a price commensurate with that relative income scale. But that's what's dragging down the ARPUs for Disney. So bottom line for me is, I know at some point Disney is going to go the route of ad-based, just because they don't want to sit on this $4 crap forever. And they do tell you that the U.S. ARPU, as a footnote in the report, is still hovering around the mid $5 range. So $5.50, $5.60 per user domestically. So you can see the variance there, how far down some of these international markets are dragging the ARPU down for Disney Plus. But overall, people seem happy because they know the growth is coming. They are opening up more markets. They're going more ad-based. And I think people are looking at this as, yeah, the ARPU isn't great, but they're looking long range, knowing that once these subscribers are in, by and large, they tend to stick, and that the ability for Disney to increase that ARPU over time is going to go up. It might not be next month, but over the next year, 2, 3, 4, they have that 4-year plan. They still think they're going to be at 230 million subs by 2024 or 2025, which is tall ladder to climb. Hang on, my power supply on my camera is going cuckoo again. But that's kind of where they are. So I think we're going to see more price increases over time with Disney Plus. We're going to see ad-based stuff coming into Disney Plus. We'll probably see a 2-tier system at some point with Disney Plus, just like Discovery, just like HBO. Because if you look at Hulu, which is also part of the DTC Disney content, the direct-to-consumer content, Hulu is Disney's big old winner right now. That is winner chicken dinner for Disney. The ARPUs on Hulu is something like $12. It's on par with HBO Max. It's on par with Discovery. It's on par with, or closer to at least, Netflix, whose ARPUs is over $14 per user. Netflix is the grand champion of that. So, it's something to consider. Hulu is a big success, and of course, they're having their international versions. I think they're calling it Star,
yeah.
Like yeah, Star. So that's going to be like the Hulu FX thing that they're doing overseas to try to get international distribution on those shows there. They talk about their operating margins went down, but that was to be expected with the DTC stuff because Disney is really ramping up their spending right now. And I just saw Script popped in. What's up, Script? Script can tell you this. He probably knows this better than I do. Disney is really ramping up more content creation right now for all of these services. And then, of course, you still have ESPN Plus out there. Their subscription numbers went up. They make a good bit of money with ESPN Plus. And, I've never said this yet on my channel, but I've talked to people about this for a number of years when all this streaming stuff started. I think the big thing for Disney is going to be ESPN down the road. A lot of people wonder why, ESPN Plus is not really ESPN, right? You have to have a cable subscription or a satellite subscription to get the entirety of ESPN and the main offerings, the main sports programming. ESPN Plus is kind of where they stick everything else that doesn't go on one of the big broadcast networks. The reason is because Disney, of course, still has these contracts with all of these cable companies and satellite companies and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure in that contract, ESPN, of course, is one of the biggest draws for cable and traditional what they call linear television. So you have DTC, which is like Disney Plus and Hulu and all this. And then you have linear delivery of television, which is your traditional broadcast and or cable satellite provider methods. Well, ESPN is the big moneymaker. That's what gets people in on these cable packages. And ESPN generally takes the biggest share of your cable bill that they have to pass along from, say, Spectrum back to Disney in this case. Now, of course, in these contracts, they probably also have something in there that says, well, look, we're going to pay you this much so we have access to ESPN to sell to our Spectrum customers. But you can't turn around and put mainline ESPN, mainline ESPN2, ESPN Classic, all the big channels. You can't then turn around and sell a streaming package with that. I think as these contracts come up for renewal with DirecTV, with Dish Network, with Spectrum, with Comcast, and all these other cable and satellite providers, I think as these contracts renew over the next, several years, Disney's probably going to try to go back into the drawing board with these and say, hey, look, if you still want exclusivity, the price that we want for this, you're going to pay us a lot more than what you're paying us now. Otherwise, we'll still get you ESPN and we'll give it to you for this price, but we're no longer going to guarantee exclusivity. We're going to make a streaming package so you can pick your poison on what you want, because I think Disney would love to have ESPN, full-blown ESPN, as part of their streaming packages, because they could probably charge, I bet, easily $15 a month alone just for ESPN if they had the whole ball of wax. So that's kind of a 30,000-foot view of everything, and that was my big takeaways from this. And I've probably rambled on long enough. So what other questions would you guys have?
Where do babies come from?
Well, Tom,
no, I agree with you. I think they really highlighted Hulu quite a bit, and the reason for that is all the reasons you said. Is it's not cheap. A lot of people have it already. It was a ground level streaming service, so it has a pretty strong base. People keep it because they like to be able to keep up with their current TV shows, and that's the one, streaming service that has like the most of the newer like next day premieres on it. And I can tell it's probably a big, huge, money machine because it has all the different tiers, and it has the advertising, it has live TV, it has all these things. And speaking of live TV, I'm surprised that must be the only thing keeping ESPN back from doing any live streaming, because just about every other network does.
Yep.
For the most part. Even when I had HBO, I don't know if you still can now with HBO Max. I don't think you can, but that's one thing I miss about HBO Go is I could actually watch live HBO when I had HBO Go or whatever the hell it was before. So like, yeah, this is not a new idea. So like, I'm surprised they haven't yet, but that makes sense if they have all these exclusive deals with the cable companies, and I wouldn't be surprised considering ESPN is like one of the first big cable companies.
Right.
So.
That's the money machine for most of these cable providers. That's what everybody wants. And frankly, ESPN is one of the primary reasons why the whole cord cutting thing hasn't gotten much bigger than it is, because you can't get ESPN anywhere else. Now, I think YouTube TV was the first one to kind of break that open. So like if you have YouTube TV, their television service, you can get that. And also you got to look at like if Disney licenses out ESPN, so not only do you can watch it if you have Spectrum or something like I do, but if I open up a Spectrum app and I can pull up all my channels, I can stream it if I'm
right, and that's why the cable companies are probably scared. Yeah,
right, because I can watch ESPN streaming now. I just have to go in through Spectrum to do it.
Exactly.
So all of that advertising they're selling to put on ESPN is still in there.
Yeah, I don't have so much questions as I have an observation. I think it's really, really good that Bob Chapek has such a focus on merchandising and try to bring up revenue that way. Because the last year and a half, almost all of Disney's value has been propped up by Disney Plus.
Yes.
And if this here tells us one thing, Disney Plus has now grown as much as it's going to grow. Yeah, of course, it's still going to grow, but the problem is that growth is going to come in regions which aren't really profitable. Because, yeah, you charge much, much more per Disney Plus customer in the States, and I might add in Norway and in Scandinavia and the Nordic and other minority territories like that. But where they still have any growth left to do is in the parts of the world which are basically subsidized by North American money. So yeah, you can still grow the number of subscribers, but they want to try to obfuscate the fact that these subscribers don't really pull their weight in terms of paying the bills or anything, which to me is like, whoa, this is almost like a little bit like a Ponzi scheme. Like not literally, but like there's like some similarities in that a Ponzi scheme. It always works as long as you pump in more money. It's the money stops coming. That's when the whole thing collapses. And to me, this sounds a little bit like that, because now Disney Plus, the regular Disney Plus, has grown as much as it's going to probably in the region where it's profitable. So then they instantly shift focus to ESPN and other things, just to desperately try to push money in and just maintain that share price. That's what this sounds like to me.
Yeah, that's why the Hulu has been such a big winner for them, because they're getting subscription fees and they're getting a whole bunch of ad revenue.
Exactly. I was going to get to that. Yeah.
That's what, Disney Plus, even though, again, I'm going to go back to India, the Hotstar system, they're paying pennies on the dollar compared to what we're paying here in the States. However, that same Disney Plus subscription over there, they're also realizing revenues from ads, ad-based stuff over there. They're putting ads in there. So like some of the other places they announced, they're going to expand into Latin America. They're going to expand into South Africa was one of the ones they're turning on. Eastern Europe, they had to push back a little bit, a couple of months, but that's coming up in the next 6 to 8 months. So all these places where you would expect to see, like, they're not going to charge $8-9 a month for these users or their currency equivalent. They might charge $3 a month or something like that. But they're selling ads in a lot of those markets, so they're getting the revenue. But again, I'm waiting to see when it's going to come to the States, because they're going to have to do it at some point. There's no way. And that's what I'm saying. I think they're letting everybody get in the door, letting everybody, hey, look at this content and this content. They have to build up a slate of those gotta have it shows like Mandalorian, and then hopefully Book of Boba Fett. You got Obi-Wan next year. I think that's when you're going to see. I think Disney is going to shift domestically and start introducing, here's your no ad subscriptions, here's your ad-based subscriptions, because they know they need to get that revenue in there at some point. It's just a question of when do they pull that trigger.
Indeed, yeah. They have to find a way to increase those earnings. Because they obviously can't go any further with the regular Disney Plus subscriptions. That has taken them, in terms of like massively increasing revenues, about as far as they can go. Of course, you can't go further, but like you can't go much further.
I think you'll see a little bit more of a
else.
swell towards the end of the year, just like we got with Mando season 1 and 2. Well, particularly season 2, because Mando season 1 is right when D Plus launched. But I think with Book of Boba Fett, I think that's going to pull in an extra swell of subs. I think definitely Obi-Wan next year. These Marvel shows really didn't seem to light it up when it came to new subs. I mean, they pulled in some. I mean, I'm talking domestically now, folks.
But in comparison to things like the Snyder Cut, no fucking way.
No, and I think when Tom, you and I were talking about this, I mean, I expect that, especially if lockdowns kind of keep coming back into play, I think HBO Max is going to have its best month for new subs between October and November for Dune.
Yeah, I think they've been the little engine that could at this point, and I think bringing Zaslav in is the best move for them, and I think it's really gonna. Hopefully, he fixes the app and brings more people to the table, because even though Discovery Plus isn't like this huge thing, I've mentioned it for a while because everybody I've talked to about it, because I asked a lot of my friends who aren't into this kind of stuff, they don't talk movie talk or money movie talk or any of that kind of stuff, the corporate politics or any of that behind the scenes stuff. They don't give a shit about any of this stuff, but what they do have is Netflix, Hulu, and either Disney Plus or HBO Max or one of these other services. And the one that always pops up, they keep talking about it, and I kept hearing back, was Discovery Plus. And I'm like, well, what the hell is this? I kept asking them. It's it's the Discovery Channel, but it's their app, and they have all kinds of stuff that's connected to their shows that you can't see unless you have the app. So Zaslav has made it to where it's must have. And the thing is I don't hear anybody griping about it so much as they just don't want to miss it. So that's the attitude you want your customer to have. It's not so much, God damn it, I got to have this extra fucking thing. It's like, no, I've got Discovery Plus and it's amazing because I got all this access to all these things and blah, blah, blah. And they love it. So that's what you want to hear when people go, oh, I got HBO Max. It's got all these things. And we hear part of that. Like everybody I talk to from everybody across the board is like, oh yeah, I can always find something to watch on HBO Max, but it's a piece of shit to fucking navigate. Like
I don't like their app either. It is clunky. I agree with you. And Discovery Plus, just for people who aren't, it's not just the Discovery Channel. It's like their entire network slate. It's like all 12 of their channels, like Travel Channel and all this DIY or whatever. Yeah. It is the whole thing, and that it's nothing. And this is the beauty of it. It's reality programming, almost 100% of it.
Right.
The cost of producing that is dick compared to the kind of stuff that you see, like a $200 million D plus headline Marvel Star Wars show. So. I mean, and that's why D Plus is so profitable.
Yeah, and the thing with Zaslav is he'll, for anybody who's ever wondered, he was the guy who changed what was it, like Court TV went and got changed to
True TV
and all these other things, and he did it like on a dime, Spike TV, and I think a bunch of these other ones he's responsible for. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's seen they weren't working, and he changed the entire formula, and he's not afraid to try something new. So that's why I think he's going to be a really good move for Warner, because that's what they need right now, because HBO Max is already doing well, but if they need somebody like that behind it to really give it that push that's going to put it up there among like Amazon Prime and Netflix and Hulu for that matter.
Yeah. And you know what, even if they don't, and again, I've said this before, and maybe I've said this on Midnight's Edge, I can't remember, but I know I've one of my videos talked about this. At 47 million subs, and I'm talking about HBO Max, for 47 million subscribers with an average revenue.
They actually have
user,
60 now.
Their quarterly report that they just, okay, you're right, including international. So 47 million domestic. And again, the only reason I break out domestic versus international, guys, is because every company reports how these ARPUs work differently. Some of them just report domestic or just report the whole ball of wax. Some of them actually break out international versus domestic. So I always try to stick with domestic because that's the easiest apples for apples comparison. So 47 million or so domestic subs for HBO Max. Tom is right. It's like 65 million with including global, right? And
I mixed both numbers. My bad.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But at $11.90 with 47 million domestic subs, Same quarter for Disney. And the last we knew domestically, we think is around like 80 million subs, something like that, in that ballpark, but at $5. So with 47 million subs, HBO Max, Warner Media, is making more money than Disney hand over fist in total because of the ARPs.
Yeah, because
same thing with Discovery.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I got to explain this real quick. No Legs says, I don't understand. I have absolutely no issues with HBO's app. The left side has all the categories. It's super easy, barely an inconvenience. Nice little, I don't know if you're calling back to a certain YouTuber there with the barely an inconvenience, but
yeah, how could we not?
It all depends on what app you're watching the app on as well. See, because certain apps already have it updated to where they work just fine. But like if you're using things like the Xbox and other things, which majority of Americans use, it is still wonky as shit.
Yeah, I have it on Apple TV.
Yeah, that's another one that I think the only ones that it works good on right now is like a Fire Stick and something else. I can't remember the other one, but like you can't even get full 4K and Dolby Atmos and all these other bells and whistles unless you have one of those certain carriers to watch it on, which most people don't. So there's that problem as well. But no, I think you're right, Valiant. I think that's the biggest point is even though HBO Max's subscriber base is a little below Disney's, they're also making 2 or 3 times what Disney's making per customer because they're charging $14.99 for the service and it's supposed to be going up and they're supposedly going to be adding a commercial version too.
For HBO Max?
Yes. Yeah, that's already been in the talks. Yeah. Or they already have it? Okay.
They launched the $9.99 subscription like I think 2 months ago. And it's their ad based. So it's $15 if you want no ads and $9.99 if you want ads. And I promise you, HBO's, especially with Zaslav sitting there knowing what he's got in his hands, he's probably like, we'd much rather you take the $9.99 a month subscription because he knows he can chunk out another $6-7 a month in ad revenue, making more money than the damn ad free version. So
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is the ad revenue part, and this is where it's going to switch from cable is going to die. I mean, I've said it's going to take a few years, and it is. It's going to take 10, 20 years for cable to completely die out. But that's the first step is as soon as all these streaming services start adding the commercial service to it, that's going to be, and Script Doctors brought this up too. It's basically the same thing that you're doing on television, right? So, and then Dark King has a super chat here that says, just do it like they do on the Discovery app. He's making fun of the Bloodhound Gang there, but yeah, no. And I hope that's what Zaslav does for him because I do like HBO Max. I always find stuff to watch on there as opposed to Netflix and stuff.
Yeah, I've been watching it more and more lately myself.
Yeah, also Nephilim also says on that Discovery Plus is Normieville streaming. Most of the USA is watching. So, 15,
I'm looking at it now. They have 15, 16 different channels on that as part of the Discovery family.
But that's Zaslav's, that's his magic touch is he took channels that, okay, he noticed they were lagging. If he found something people want to watch.
Yeah.
And not just want to watch, they have to watch.
Cooking, just basic, simple stuff. And people binge it. It's like the Office of reality TV. People will just turn it on and run all day long with it.
Yes, Grip even points out that in-studio productions on HBO Max have been referring to themselves as a Max production or event. So, yeah, that's pretty cool right there. Were there any other cool revelations during this the Disney presentation yesterday?
Well,
outside of the streaming numbers?
He started with a little bit of one, throwing a bit of shade at the whole idea that him and Bob are, not getting along. But it was very, very minimal. He basically said that they had all agreed on the whole Discovery thing. And he made a point that you're kind of hitting on quite a bit, Andre, in your recent video that's going to be coming out soon. And that is that they're no longer going to be doing these long-term contracts. It is up to them whether or not something goes to Disney Plus and stream and theaters at the same time or not. So they made that very fucking clear. So there was a little bit of that in the intro. After that, I mean, most of the call, Chapek seemed, I mean, it was kind of boring for me to listen to just because, it's just a bunch of, business talk. And mostly it was about the parks. Because let's be clear, most of this call, almost all the people that called, there was like maybe a handful of people. They were all like major investors and shit like that or whatever, as far as I could tell through like Merrill Lynch and all that shit. So
they stopped letting the Joe average stockholder get in there after the January call or the February call with the whole Gina thing, and you got two people in there and Chapek said nah. And the second quarter call, it was they let 10 people in, and every one of them was an investment bank.
Yeah.
So
very strategic.
Yep.
Keep the pleb outside. They don't know how to act in civilized company. That's kind of like the
well, I
the
kind of
moral
understand
of that story.
what they're trying to do is they're going by tiers, right? They're letting the shareholders in that have the largest stake in Disney, kind of take front of the line, which I get. I mean, it's like, okay, I mean, if I'm Vanguard or something and I own 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 million shares, outstanding shares, it's like, I got a hotline. I got Chapek's cell phone number. And if I call that motherfucker at 3 a.m, better pick up. Kind of thing.
Those guys, they get the top tier. They get to go on a personal dinner with Chapek as he breaks everything down for them. That's the very top tier thing.
Well,
they don't care about these events because they know everything already.
Yeah.
And I think the bigger thing here that's going into this, and again, let's push the whole Black Widow lawsuit aside, right? I think Chapek is really kind of hitting on the note that profit comes first, fans and what the fans want, or at least the customers want in this case. That's coming first, and I'm not saying that he's popular, because he's not very popular among the people that are fans of the park. There's plenty of wonderful channels that cover the park stuff that, that was the thing, is most of the call was stuff that has to do with the park. So I recommend checking out like Lorena Creole or Clownfish TV or Park Hoppin' and stuff like that. Those guys really, really know their shit when it comes to the park stuff. But when it comes to the other stuff, though, they were really kind of light on any entertainment. The only other thing that was brought up, Andre, that I thought was interesting was that they did point out again, much like they did with Black Widow, that Shang-Chi was definitely coming to theaters only for 45 days, then coming to Disney Plus.
To me, that's super interesting.
And that's already locked in, because they've already, and that's one of the things that Chapek went into.
Well, you notice that little asterisk there afterwards. 45
well,
days
that was the agreement. So that's and that's kind of where it happened with Black Widow. So apparently they're making these distribution commitments to theatrical chains about 3 months in advance, which is also why I think there really was no definitive mention of what is going to happen with the Eternals. See, Shang-Chi's already locked in. They already committed. They signed a contract with AMC, Regal, and all these guys. You get exclusivity for Shang-Chi for 45 days, and then it will hit Disney Plus. Now, I don't know whether or not that'll hit Premier Access. I'm guessing they're going to do Premier Access at that point, because why wouldn't they? It'd be stupid not to. I mean, they're not just going to dump it on there for free after 45 days. If it would, I would really have to scratch my head. But that being said, that's where that is. So it'll be interesting at this point to see if the Eternals will actually still get an exclusive theater run, not knowing. I mean, by the time I think that comes out in November, right? So that we could be in a very different environment in terms of seating capacity, in terms of lockdowns again, potentially, hopefully not. But I mean, if they start shutting down the two major markets, if you see New York and Los Angeles basically flip the switch and go, no more of this, they're not going to commit to theatrical only for the Eternals. It will change, because I don't think they've committed one way or another yet.
Well, and that's the thing, is I think we're seeing a clear sign that things are going to get shut down again. Let's be real, guys. It's going to happen.
Seeming like it.
I don't know, and I want to get into it again about like all the logistics of why and if it's really pertinent or not. But what that does say for the entertainment side of things, the things that we cover, is that everything is going to get fucking delayed again. They already pushed Venom back a month. anticipate, and I heard this was going to happen, and I said this last week. I think I hinted that there was a possibility, and I'm curious now if we're going to hear Spider-Man's going to get pushed back a month, which means Morbius might get pushed back a month, and Ghostbusters might also get pushed back yet, but I don't know. Because I know Sony's not going to fuck around. They have no reason to fuck around, and they don't have a streaming service to dump these movies on, and they sure as hell ain't going to sell most of these movies for the price that, you know, Amazon got from Paramount and a few of the other places, because they were desperate to unload these movies.
Yeah.
Like that Tomorrow War, for instance. Paramount basically made cost on that.
Mm-hmm.
It cost them $200 million. Amazon gave them $200 million.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they didn't probably spend that much, because as Andre will tell you, movie math is funny like that.
It's very funny. I mean,
yeah.
What they budget, what they spend is not the same thing.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They spend, they claim they spend $80 on a
budget.
hammer and $150 on a toilet seat, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and much of the budgeting there is like, okay, we're like here's an expense for $10 million that we paid for our other department, but still we're going to file that as an expense right here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's plenty of that going on. Before we move on, though, have to welcome Atomic Vomit as a new member. That's awesome. Thank you.
And I remember Gary Tunnicliffe when he was talking about The Exorcist, how, you know, Warner's was out there advertising that supposedly this remake of the other version cost X amount when it only cost like a third of that.
Yes, he was talking about Exorcist at the beginning, when they, in the trades, they said that, it cost 70 million, and he was like, yeah, well, that's funny, because I was there and I saw the overheads was 30. So they were able to.
Well, you know, marketing budgets come into play too, but most of the, I mean, when they quote production budgets, they usually don't have a marketing budget in there, because, and just for everybody out there watching, you got two different divisions, right? You've got your actual studio production, and then you've got your distributor. And sometimes they're under the same roof, like Warner Brothers or Disney, for example, but they're still spending that money. Two different departments. Production's going to spend $200 million or something like that to make Black Widow. And then Disney, Disney distributors on the other side is going to spend another $100 million, or in Black Widow's case, probably a lot more, because they had to market it twice. You know, they're going to spend another $100 million. So the total they're in for is sometimes higher. So in any case.
Yes, indeed. But moving on, then, I agree with Tom. I think that Spider-Man could even be delayed until next summer. We'll see how it turns out. But the one that won't be delayed, though, is Shang-Chi. And what I think is interesting with that is that since it will presumably be getting an exclusive theatrical window, if it flops, how do you hide that? Because, like, for instance, with Black Widow's underperformance, they could blame that it was on Disney Plus. You don't have that exclusive for Shang-Chi. I think that's going to be really important in testing the interest in the Marvel Studios brand at this point.
Well, and that's exactly what you just said. It's gonna be really easy at that point if Shang-Chi comes out in a few weeks, and you know they'll point the finger at, oh well, okay, it's still opened in 4,000 theaters. Let's assume they're all still open, and maybe some of those areas had limited seating capacity, 50%, 75%, but it's still opened. Let's just say it even opens north of 3,000 theaters, which is still a pretty big opening. But it just duds. Okay. 45 days later, when that movie comes to Disney Plus, if they do premiere access, well, we've already set the stage. We're going to go ahead and announce opening weekend numbers like they did with Black Widow, where they took in 60 million Disney Plus that weekend. And, you know, so are we going to get those kind of reported numbers from Disney again with Shang-Chi? So if it shows up 45 days later and the excuse is, well, nobody went to the theaters because of the bug or lockdowns, whatever. Okay, well, I would expect to see a commensurate amount of purchases on Premier Access 45 days later when it hits, because if nobody else has seen it and everybody really wants to see it, they don't. Then we're going to see it on Premier Access, and Disney would want to announce those numbers. I think if it hits and Disney doesn't announce those numbers, then you have your answer. It was a bomb, you know. So, but I think initially, yeah, a guy like Feige is going to want to use the excuse, oh well, it's not the movie, it's the bug, right? It's nothing to do with that. Well, we can't say that with Black Widow, day and date release. Okay, well then we should have seen more Premier Access numbers show up. So if they did what so far, $300 million global box for Black Widow, right? I think it's about that. I think that's where it's at.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, 300 million global box, about 170 million in the US. Okay, great. If we throw in Disney Premier Access, the $30 charges, which we assume at this point, maybe it's around, maybe it got up to about 100 to 120 million. I think it's a reasonable assumption. They did 60 million on opening weekend. To be fair, Samba TV kind of jived with those numbers. They came out that Monday and they said, well, our metrics say 1.1 million US households watched Black Widow on its premiere weekend. Well, that would put the other 900,000 households internationally that bought it out there. So that works out. So let's say they did 120 million on Disney Plus Premier Access from that. Scale it up for theatrical revenue, for the theatrical revenue side, even double it. Okay, fine, 250 million. They shave off 15% because they have to pay that to people like Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, all that kind of stuff. When you buy that Premier Access through your delivery device, they're getting a cut of that $30. So even if you scaled it up to 250 and you add that, okay, well, Black Widow would still have been about 550 million global box office right now. So big deal. That's one of the worst performing MCU movies ever. So you can't say that, oh, well, it would have done better if, when people have an easy access alternative delivery system and you're not getting it there either. They pirated the hell out of it too. So that was obviously a problem, but you're not going to get the same, or at least I think they're going to try to make the same excuses maybe with Shang-Chi and the Eternals when those things flop out. And a lot of that's the kind of stuff I was discussing this morning about Bob Chapek, these movies, Kevin Feige and all that in the video I put out this morning that had Cameron Pasha in it. So, it's going to be an interesting next few months. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, yes. Very,
well, and
very
I noticed
much
something
so.
funny about the Fall Guy previews. All of them make sure that they say it's not on streaming and you can't download it, implying the piracy issue.
Right.
So I think
if it's so bad that they have to address it like that.
I was just going to say, I think that this is the one time and the one time only where I've said this last couple of weeks, that even though they've whined and bitched and cried about piracy for the last 20 years or whatever almost, this is where they're actually feeling it now.
Right.
Black Widow kicked them in the ass on piracy. Why? It is the most pirated movie in history.
Mm-hmm.
And don't think that's not going to come up in in Scarlett Johansson's case. Now, that'll be wonder if it'll even get to court, because they are trying to push for arbitration big time.
Yep.
And again, that's where, Bob is implying, oh, this wouldn't have happened under my leadership kind of thing. I don't remember the exact quote that was made, but
it wasn't him. It was like someone else that said it on
so
his
again,
behalf.
Bob and Bob are playing nice in public, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they actually don't get along necessarily to a point. That doesn't mean that they necessarily agree on how to run the company. And that's clear because, Bob is all about acquiring and talent and this kind of a thing. And, how he set things up, as opposed to Bob Chapek, where he's worried more about the bottom line, which this is what we've been saying for a while. Sooner or later, these kind of people are going to come into play. The people that are the money people, the people that are going to start asking, where's our fucking money? Sure, your politics are all great and it's nice that you're doing all this other crap, but where's our fucking money? Because it sure ain't making us any money. And what it sounds like Bob Chapek is doing is putting the control in the hands of the distributors and into the hands of the marketing and merchandising people, which are the people, merchandising people are the ones who knows what sells, right? Like
exactly.
they know what licensees want. And let me tell you, so, Baby Yoda was a big deal. Gina Carano's character was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that, Pixar and all these things sell well. There's a reason for it. And if you're making movies that people don't like, that don't make toys that people want to buy, then there's nothing for the merchandising department to sell. Why did we have 3 Cars movies? Because they fucking sold toys.
Exactly. Especially the third one. The third one was a box office disaster domestically. It made some decent money overseas, but yeah, the big thing was, it's like we sell like $2 billion of Lightning McQueen toys in the last few years. I don't give a shit if the movie fails or not, because we know it's going to sell more toys. That's all it is. Yeah. And I mean, and a lot of that, again, you talked about that, with Cameron in that video this morning about, Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, they're very different people. Bob Chapek and Kevin Feige, very different people. And we have enough information out there from the last couple of years on who Chapek is and who Feige is and how everything came to where we are at this point. We can make some relatively educated guesses about why certain decisions are being made at this point. So, but I'll try to post a link to that video to you guys if you want to check it out after the show, of course.
Yeah, I already shared it on Twitter, and you can also, of course, find it by just hitting the link in the description. So yeah, everyone do that when we are done with the show. And it's also very interesting in terms of like the piracy, because yeah, like for the first time now in the age of streaming and 4K streaming, you can within hours of a movie being dropped on HBO Max, Disney Plus, wherever, not just get the movie, but you can get a 4K digital copy of the movie, which is actually higher quality than a regular Blu-ray. Not the 4K Blu-ray, but a regular Blu-ray. How insane is that?
HBO Max, that's really hurting them more than anything, probably because, as we were pointing out earlier, unless you have like one of the two ways of streaming it that it actually works properly on, you're right, Andre. You can actually download a better copy than you can watch it. Like I was
know
watching
people
Suicide
that do
Squad.
that.
Yeah, I was watching the Suicide Squad in low quality 1080p, and it kept dipping out because a lot of people were watching it. So it was even dipping down to like below 480p half the time on me. And I didn't even get full Dolby Atmos. It only comes through in 5.1, even though they're broadcasting it in that way through, or streaming it that way through the system. But because I only have the Xbox to watch it on, it's not properly set up yet for it. So yeah, you're right. I technically could go get a better version of it online and watch it.
Yeah, I've heard from people who do that. So like they have the service legally and they try to watch it and it's choppy or the quality isn't to their liking. Then they go and they, Surfshark a better quality version of it. They watch the better pirate version of what they have the opportunity to watch completely legally.
I've bitched at them through like Twitter and other ways, like when they ask your feelings, and I've said flat out, I don't feel like I should pay $15 a month when I can't watch the 4K version of Mortal Kombat or whatever.
Right.
If I can, I don't see why and that's just something I think they really, really need to address quickly is get the app fixed on everything that's out there. That's just, there's no excuse for it.
And that was kind of the neat thing Netflix did. Netflix, and I don't know if it's still broken out this way, but I remember a few years ago when 4K content was becoming more prevalent, Netflix offered, like I pay Netflix, I think it's 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, they're up to that now, yeah.
Yeah. So I pay for 4K and I pay for up to 4 or 5 TVs at one time because I got 5 people in my house, right? So, but if I didn't want the 4K, they have that lower tier where it's like, well, you can go ahead and sign up for the $12 whatever it is now. Same thing, 4 TVs, but you have 1080p maxed out instead of 4K. I don't know if they're still doing that.
I think
but I mean,
so.
that's what was nice about it, is give you the tiers so everybody can find exactly what they want. And it's one of the reasons why Netflix subscriptions are so sticky. They do stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, and Script brings up another point. It's not just the infrastructure, which that is a major issue. Yep. Let's not be wrong. But it also is the limitations of internet in some areas. Like in mine, it's not the problem of the internet. It's because I'm watching it through Xbox. And if I went out and got one of the other, I think it's the Fire Stick or something else, and watched it on there, it would work properly if it works properly through my system. That's the other thing. It's got to be compatible on both ends.
Which Xbox generation is it? The newest
I have Xbox One.
That's the newest one?
No, that's not the newest one. It's
one generation. So you probably get 4K, but the difference is it might even
what it is it's not upgraded yet. They only have 2 ways of watching HBO Max that you can actually get it through in 4K, or actually 3, I think. And one of those ways you can't get the 5.1. It's Roku. Yeah, Roku is one of them. I think it's the Fire Stick is the other way, and those are the only 2 ways that you can get it in full quality the way you're supposed to be able to. That's the only apps only systems that they've upgraded the app for yet. And no, it's even worse on computer. You can't. I'm not even sure if HBO Max streams in full 1080p on your computer yet. which is also a problem
I
with some of the other
think
streamers.
it does. I think I've pulled it down before, but I don't use it.
I don't think it does 4K though, because I have a 4K monitor. So
yeah, I run it through. I got one of the brand new 4K Apple TV generations.
That it might work on.
Yeah,
that
it
might
works
be one
great
of
on
the other
that.
ones.
And even
so.
I've got some of the previous 4K Apple TV generations, and it seems to run fine on that as well. But that's why I just upgraded my internet. I just went to the gigabit internet service. So
well, that's the thing is my old internet where I used to be from. Yes, Jason, it sucked ass. This new internet I have here, I have the highest package I can get aside from like if I was a company, I'd actually have to pay them to come in and install like this big massive like server or whatever. But we got some super chats. Let's get to some super chats.
Yes, we do. And also Valiant has to get back to the office. I don't know how much longer we have you for, but if you had to bow out, then just let us know.
Yeah, I've got to get running. I mean, and I haven't really been watching. I mean, I don't want to. If anybody had a super chat,
we have a couple here.
For me that,
let's see here. Well, one right off the bat I know is via PayPal. Golgo13 sent us one that says, "Hail Andre, Tom, and Valiant Renegade. Here's my money. I believe Script Doctor is onto something. Eventually, with as many services there will be a company that emerges, think cable satellite company, to bundle all of these together at a slight discount since they will be in bulk traditional model. In my opinion, or in my honest opinion, however that is, I believe this is an eventual, that it is eventual. Also, shameless plug, in my inaugural stream will be tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern with Mexican Iron Man. Well, there you go. That's awesome.
All right, Brandon.
Thanks. Brilliant. Cool.
Thanks, cool. And keep being awesome. And yeah, I don't think you're wrong. And we kind of already have that with Amazon. Amazon's done a pretty good job of getting most of the services through their system. And in fact, most of them work better through there, like Paramount Plus, for instance.
Mm-hmm. No surprise. Yeah, that's going to happen.
Anything to add to that, Valiant? But yeah,
no, I totally agree with it. It's absolutely right, and I've been waiting for the same kind of thing. Eventually, somebody's going to come around and be another, and it's going to take an Amazon that has a delivery device. It's going to take a Roku that is a delivery device. It's going to take Apple that is a delivery device. That Apple TV box, that Roku box, the Fire Stick. Those are delivery devices where they can, if they got to work it out with everybody, obviously licensing, sit there and go, well, from Amazon, from Apple or iTunes or whatever, you can sit there and let me do a, one set subscription, pay $50 a month, and I get Paramount, HBO, Apple TV, Amazon, Netflix, everything in one, boom, done. And then Apple, in that case, gets their 15% concession for selling those packages out from the licensees. So I mean, it's
and Amazon kind of saved CBS All Access / Paramount, from what I heard. From what I heard, if it wasn't for them signing up through that, then it would have like that. They gained like twice the subscribers they had because they went through that model.
I think it's still going to go at some point.
It is, so. But I think they're just setting themselves up for sale. But that's just me. We got a couple we can bring up on screen here. Well, as soon as you got to check out, though, just let us know because they're all kind of general questions.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Strelitz says something different. What do you think of King Spawn selling 500,000 near pre-orders and the rest? Who knows? I heard about this. I'm not too familiar with the actual comic itself or what it's entailing, but I do know they were hard at work on the movie side of things. I wonder if this will affect that.
Yeah, I think it's all built in. McFarlane has been doing this, and I was an original Spawn fan. So the first books came out when I was about 13, and I still have the first 100 issues. And
you mean the first 100 good ones, or the good ones?
I mean, I was a big McFarlane guy. Hell, I still have a copy of Amazing Spider-Man 300 with the first appearance of Venom. That was a McFarlane book before he left and went to Image. And,
I have the Norwegian version of that.
Oh, was it on the Sega Mega Drive?
Actually, yes, because you had like the game Maximum Carnage that came out of that run.
Yes.
Like there was a follow-up to that story, and that was on the Mega Drive.
And just as an aside on me the other day, Tom was talking about Sonic, and I brought this out. I said Andre would know what this is.
Nice.
So there you go. There's your Sega Mega Drive, which of course we call the Genesis. But
is it on before the Mega Drive?
Purely for copyright reasons.
Yeah. So no, I think McFarlane, 500,000 books. I mean, the last time DC sold a book and Marvel sold a book that big, it's been a few years. DC, I think they were saying Action Comics number 1,000 was the last one that they had that just barely breached the 500,000 mark. And yeah, this thing from McFarlane, man, good on him. Good on him.
Yeah. However, HyperGuyver2 sent us a super chat earlier. I can't bring it up on screen, but I'm going to read it. And he said for $5, King Spawn is reporting 500,000 in sales, but guaranteed at least 300 of those issues are bulk issues that will never sell. Don't buy the hype. However, even if that is true, that means you still have 200 issues left that maybe will sell to consumers, or at least that did sell to retailers. And that alone is pretty significant, because even comics like Batman and Spider-Man have a hard time selling 1/10 of that these days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
so that's still
the
pretty
first
significant.
big new Spawn property in a while, and there's still a lot of appetite for that. The artwork's still pretty, the stories are still good. And
speaking of HBO Max, they did have, I don't know if it still is, they had the Spawn animated series in HD on HBO Max. I'm just
nice!
I want that on Blu-ray.
Well, if it's on HBO Max, you probably won't get it on.
I know,
Blu-ray,
right?
But well, if it's reasonably remastered and in decent quality,
it looks really good. It depends on who is in control of it. That's the problem with Warner Brothers. They have so many different departments that I'm surprised we're actually getting Superman the animated series on fucking Blu-ray, because that was one thing I heard that was such a problem for many, many years between Bill Hunt and other people that they were talking about. Was the short version is Warner's split up into sections. So if something's animated, it automatically gets sent to their family department. So for years, DC was just begging and trying to get Batman the animated series released on Blu-ray. and the kids side of things just is like, oh, there's no interest in it. No interest in it. It'll cost too much. No, we're not doing it. So for years, they kept dealing with that shit. And finally, they broke down and let them do it. And they did it as an archive title. And it pre-sold out so many so fast that they had to put it out as a normal title. Because Warner's like, oh, people want this. It's like, duh! They've only been telling you for
it's like Ninja Turtles. It's the same shit.
Exactly, yes. Too many departments, too many people that are in control of stupid shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jack of All Casual says, morning, Andre, Tom, Valiant, Wrenches, and chat. Yes, give the Wrenches some love. I don't know if Mr. Tickle Trunk is here. I didn't see him yet, but I know Six is hanging out in the chat. Who else did we have here for Wrenches this morning? It's been a quiet morning. I know Script was hanging out too, but yeah. Anyway, says happy greetings from Las Vegas. Well, thank you for rubbing it in. No, I'm just kidding. I wish I was out there with you guys. It looks like fun. I seen everybody streaming last night, and it was just, I want to be there. I want to be there so bad. But hopefully you're having a great time. Tell everybody I said hello. And then we had some other past super chats. As long as you still got a few minutes here yet, Valiant, or
yeah, I got about 5 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think that will be fine.
Okay, and then we got Darius Munchausen who just sent us some popcorn. Thank you so much for that. I like popcorn. Joachim Stark sent us $20 and said, or that's
at least 20 Swedish krona.
That's Swedish krona. Yep.
Yeah.
And said hit the like button.
Yes, indeed. Smash that like.
Do. Then Roof Korean sent in $5 and says, just before the U.S. election, there was a bill to charge person with a felony for piracy. Any way to see the corporate fascists had an input on it? Oh, they would love to. They've been trying for the...
Yeah, of course they would. But who are the ones that supported this bill? Now, this is a little bit too U.S. specific for me, but I'm sure there must be some way to see who in general supports any given bill.
I don't know offhand, but do you know, Valiant? Because otherwise I'd take a guess. That
I don't know the specifics of this. I'd have to go back and refresh my memory on it, so I don't want to talk out of school on it.
If there's some piracy law that they're trying to get in effect that's going after people, I guarantee you it's Hollywood behind it.
Oh, well, that would make perfect sense. I mean, that's who's losing the most. I mean, Hollywood, music, the music studios, the music distributors, all those kind of things, which a lot of times are one and the same, like Universal and guys like that.
Well, and they've already kind of been running it how the music industry has had to deal with it. The music industry tried suing a couple people and it just didn't work out.
Right.
Because when you try to sue some fucking soccer mom for, hundreds of thousands of dollars because she downloaded Pink Floyd, that's not going to roll over well in the public court of opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these laws are set up that way. And that's the thing. Most of these laws are set up in a way that they're only going to go after people who are running major piracy operations. And
Mhm.
that's what Hollywood probably wants to change. Now, I don't know the specifics of it. If you want to send it to me, then I can check it out. But I'm willing to bet that that's what it has more to do, is they probably want a lower level, they want the government to enlist some kind of lower level law to where they can go after individuals. Because
Mhm.
right now, the most they can do is basically scare your ISP into shutting you down. That's all they can do. There really isn't much more than that, because they would have to go through so much trouble to go after an individual. It would really make them look so fucking bad in the public eye.
Yeah, and
But
most of the
anyway,
sites where you
yeah.
have that stuff is, they talk about like Torrent and stuff like that, where they were
Right.
measuring Black Widow's piracy. Because Torrent can just turn around and say, "Well, we're a file sharing platform. We can't police what people
They
put up
kinda
here and
already
what they
have.
do." Yeah, and exactly. And that's it's like, but we all know what they're doing. We all know why they're there. It's what they're there for. But they get to say, "Well, yeah."
Well, the thing
Section
is a
230.
a torrent app is basically just like a weapon. It's
Mm-hmm.
you can say it's dangerous, but unless it's only the user who is making it dangerous, right?
Right.
And hence they can't be held responsible, but an individual can. But that's the thing, the way the laws are set up right now is if they were to come after an individual, it'd be worse than when the music industry tried to, because the laws are enlisted in a way and they have to almost follow them. And that's what happened with the music thing, is you had those two or three individuals who got drug into court. They literally had like hundreds of thousands of dollars in court costs because of all the, they got charged like with each count of downloading. And it's like this astronomical fee because, like I said, it's set up for a situation where if you're busting people who are doing major, like, operations of running CDs and movies and shit, and selling them on the street. I mean, that's kind of the whole point those laws are in effect for. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to get something put into effect to come after more individual people like that.
Yeah, they're
That's
gonna have to be
fucking
careful how they
scary.
write that law, though, and that's probably why it's hung up, because it's you can't leave it too vague. But
Well,
again,
what
I don't
happened to
know.
that kid who streamed Deadpool on Facebook? I know he got charged like, what was it, 10 grand or some shit into something else,
I don't
but
remember
I don't
that
know if
story.
that stuck. Yeah, some kid streamed Deadpool on Facebook and he got charged. I don't know how
Well,
the outcome of it. I have to look it up, but
the story itself is what they're after, right? The story itself is to be able to say, look what can
exactly,
happen to
yeah.
you. Now, did they really want to, throw the kid behind bars or whatever? I don't think they care if they
Well,
ever
I
get
say
paid
kid,
from
and
it.
he was probably like 20 something. But
Yeah,
anyway.
but I mean, still, it's like if they never get paid for they want the story out there to say, don't do this, or this will happen. And look, people need to be fair
Yeah.
about it. It doesn't matter if you think a company's big, evil, $1 billion, they have enough money already. It's
Mhm.
still stealing.
Yeah.
It's so don't do it.
Well, no, and I don't condone it. We don't condone
Yeah,
it.
no, I know you guys don't.
Obviously, but if you do feel the need, you have to do things like that. You should protect yourself, right, Andre?
Oh, absolutely. We do not condone, nor do any of our sponsors condone in any way taking to the high seas. But if you should find yourself on the high seas, just to protect yourself from spyware and stuff like that, use some protection. Go with some Surfshark VPN.
Yeah. It's a new friend.
You dumb friend.
New dumb friends. Hyper Guyver sent in one we can bring up on screen here. Says the formula that sold King Spawn is as follows: every 250 sold is a random signed variant cover. For every 1,000 is signed CGC 9.5 graded variant. That does make a difference. I would assume.
Every number one issue out there, Marvel, DC, it's the same thing. They do the same formula with every number one issue out there, and this is how they get the comic shops to light it up. Because if they get stuck with a bunch of extra regular ones, they can go out and Gary at Nerdrotic, obviously, he talks about this way better than I do, and Yellow Flash and EBS and all these guys. But that's basically how it works, and that's all of it. It's not just Spawn.
Well, even if they don't,
honestly, it's the comic book shop's fault as well, because they have gone along with this scam, because this is a scam. They want that one exclusive, and then they have to have 20, 30 useless ones on the shelves, and then they have to overprice that one to make up for the 20, 30, or even 100 or even 1,000 that they will never sell.
The one I blame the most for this is the death of Superman.
The black bag. I still have it, man. The black
bag.
And
white bags. Yep. Big Daddy MRI says, great stream. Hail to the wrenches. Hail Chad. Hi, Andre, Tom, and Valiant. Be safe and hit that like button. Yes, please do.
Smash that like.
Big Daddy MRI is a huge supporter of the channels, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate all of you listening this morning. There's over 1,000 of you in the chat listening. Please hit that like button. Show us some support. That would be awesome. Even if you don't like what we're talking about, hit that dislike button.
Yeah, then tell us why in the comments.
Yes, then tell us why in the comments.
There you go.
But yeah, let's grab another super chat or two while we got a minute with you here yet. Let's see here. We got Nephilim, if I'm saying that correctly. Says Discovery Plus is Normieville streaming most USA Watch. Yeah, I think we kind of limitly addressed that while it came up, but no, that's the point though. If you can get the normies on board, that's what matters. Because I mean, I get it. We are the true fans when it comes to certain franchises and genres. But it's the normies who are the and I hate calling them normers. I call them the general public, the public that isn't into the ins and outs in the franchises, don't give a shit about directors, the type of people I talk to who still think that Steven Spielberg directed Star Wars, you know,
right?
Because they don't care, you know. So like, yeah, once you get those people involved, once they get to a situation where it's like must have, that's what happened with Netflix. That's why Netflix got so damn big. Because everybody's like, well, I got to have it because it's the only way I can see some of these things. So,
yeah. And then we have Rob Brands, who says for $5 Canadian, saw a report yesterday that Bond has to make at least $930 million to break even. I think it's safe to say they're going to lose a lot of cash on this film.
Well, now, wouldn't this kind of be like a situation where Amazon picked up the bill on this anyway? Because they bought MGM.
They bought it.
And then they've got the rights to it now. Because initially, the plan and the deal was that Paramount Plus was going to get Bond 45 days after premiered. But then the brakes got hit as soon as Amazon said they were buying MGM.
But is that Amazon totally finalized now? Is
that's the thing? Is I don't think it's finalized yet.
Yeah. See, so that's the issue.
Because there's some resistance. And I don't think it's going to go through, but there's some resistance because they're going to cite the whole Comcast deal and all that shit, I bet, and AT&T. But
yeah, so if they're estimating $900 million at the box, I mean, $900 million, yeah. Then if somebody stroked them and checked for 400, 500, when
they had that opportunity and they turned it down.
I know.
You know what? I don't believe this figure. I think that this figure is inflated. Now, unless they have included something else with it. Because there must be some incredibly high interest loans involved here.
Well, we know how much that is.
But also the marketing budget too. There's probably a couple $100 million because they've marketed this movie 2 and 3 times now.
The movie cost $200 million or so to make. 250, I think, is what they're reporting. They spent $30 million at least on pre-advertising before the movie got pulled the initial time. Remember that. So there's another $30 million out the door. It's costing them an estimated $1 million a month that it's not in theaters, just in interest. So yeah, I'm not surprised if they need this much. The budget already is hovering around $300 million, and you got to triple that.
But here's like the thing though. That's to break even. So that's not their total. Like their total negative cost is not 930 million.
No.
930 million is what it needs to gross to make back its negative cost. If the negative cost is around like then it makes sense. Then I can believe it.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. They're looking at the budget right now is probably, like I said, hovering around 300 million with all the excess bullshit they've had to add on. Maybe even more than that.
It's probably more than that. I bet we're 350.
Because they also had those reported reshoots that we reported months and months, actually a year ago now.
Yeah, we did more than a year ago. No, actually, I can see this being around like a total negative cost of like 400 or 500 million. Absolutely, and that's money they're not getting back again.
Yeah,
that is for certain.
350 to 4, I think wouldn't be out of the ballpark.
And then on top of that, we also learned like a year ago that it was accruing what was like 1 month, 1 or 5 million or something like that for each month. It was just sitting in storage because there were some very expensive loans that needed to be repaid, and they should have started paying them right away.
Yeah, simple math. You figure 200 million, 250 that they spent on production. Let's just say 250 on the high side, 250 on production budget. Let's say that they had a 5% interest loan, like a 5% VIG on the loan, and that's 12 million a year, 5 million a year. That's $1 million a month, right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
simple.
So yeah, that's That's issue for them right there. And then, in the meanwhile, we got a new super chat that we should be able to bring up on screen. Dash Attack says, I want Venom to do well because having a rival MCU of obscure Spider-Man villains anti-hero sounds cool. Hope Morbius releases and that the Man-Wolf movie is real and gets the green light. Well, we shall see what Sony has resources for. We know that they already pushed Venom back from September to October. I think it was, like we have it in the title, but it's not like a huge thing that is pushed back. But it could be pushed back more. It could, if there are new lockdowns and stuff like that. This is a movie that very easily could be pushed back to the summer of 2022. Right alongside Spider-Man No Way Home, or whatever it's called again. So it'll be interesting.
Same thing with
exactly
Ghostbusters, and I know a lot of people are upset about that too because it's been pushed back so far already. And there isn't a week that goes by that I get some upset person in my chats going, "When's Ghostbusters coming out? When are we getting it?" And I get it. It's like I want to see it too, but of all the movies that Sony has sitting on their shelf right now, that's the one they've got the least reason to want to put out there because it has nothing to gain by put out in the middle of the shit. Mm-hmm. They're better off waiting until they can have the most theaters and the most people see it, especially after the reaction to that latest trailer. But yeah. So moving on though with super chats, what else we got?
Yes. What we got? Then we have to go back to the classics here, and next we had. Let's see. Alex Bogey says for $4.99. Any signs that the Carano boycott of Disney Plus is working? And to that, I would honestly have to say, who can say, but not in any significant way. But speaking of Carano, that brings us right up to the first announced, but the last topic that we're going to go through today, namely Gina Carano's movie, the one she's doing in conjunction with the Daily Wire, is now, it's not fully announced, but we know a little bit more about it. Tom, do you have the story?
Which one? The Gina Carano one? Yeah, she's, I don't have it up, but I can grab it here real quick. She's talked a little bit about her upcoming project. It's going to be based on the book White Knuckle. It's about a woman who was traumatized by a serial killer, and she's upset that the police don't seem to be able to do anything. So she teams up with a trucker, because the serial killer himself happens to be a trucker, to go after this guy. So it's being compared to like Duel, and I can't remember some of the other titles she brought up. But yeah, sounds very interesting, and sounds like a good fit for Gina, and a good start to her non-Hollywood career, if you want to call it that. I mean, it still technically is, but it isn't. But the fact that it's getting the notice that it did in like Deadline and stuff like that, I think speaks bigger volumes than anything.
I think this movie is going to get Hollywood's attention.
Oh, yes.
Because this is not so much for her, but because Daily Wire suddenly can offer an alternative. They can be something of a safe space, for lack of a better term, where opinions that do not comply with those that are enforced in Hollywood at large may be welcome. If this movie is successful, I think you're going to have more actors suddenly break rank and start working for there, because they see, well, there's an alternative. We don't have to pretend to be deranged lunatics all the time. We can actually speak our minds and still have a career. That's the significance here. That is why Deadline is following this. And don't you worry, they're hoping for this to fail.
Well, and I'm seeing, that's the thing, is this is a very positive article. We're seeing a few other things, even if you count the Chapek move. If his actual motivation is to make money, which is what we've been saying, what happened to all the cocaine and capitalism in Hollywood? I'll take that shit any day over the crap we've gotten for the last 10 years. I think we're getting back there. Mr. Depp is also getting a lot of recognition, and people are coming out in support of him. Things are starting to swing a little bit, right? You even got people on the other side who are starting to say, like Bill Maher and other people are starting to call bullshit on a lot of this stuff. I hate saying that he's right sometimes, but sometimes he's right. You know.
Well, even the bloke in the clock is right twice a day. So.
Well, and he's been calling a lot of this shit out for a while. I gotta give credit where credit's due. I mean, even last year he was calling out woke movies and shit. So I mean, he also bitched about the Oscars and things like that, saying a lot of the same stuff we are. So I don't think I think that the word's getting out there. I think that the feeling's getting out there. When you got shit like this right now in the situation we're in, when stuff's really real, I mean, the money isn't there to pay everybody, so they got to start figuring out other ways of doing it. And if you're not doing it just by making your own movies watchable, I mean, that's a problem, when people don't want to see your fucking movies. And I think that's the thing is with the Suicide Squad, what hurt it was just all the things leading up to it. And mainly was Birds of Prey and the reaction to it. And what was the problem with Birds of Prey? It was the most woke fucking movie we've ever seen in the last year, probably, outside of a few other ones that I've avoided.
So such a shame that the Suicide Squad did worse than it. But yeah, I'm not surprised that it's a revenge movie. I think that's a very good fit. I was hoping that it would be something along the lines of Nobody, and I just hope that it's going to be successful. But we'll see how that turns out. Valiant, any thoughts on that?
No, I think Tom said it all. It was great, and I was going to say something right when you pulled up the Deadline article and put it on screen, and that was that. Yeah, and it even has this movie's got a pedigreed writer to it, Eric Red from The Hitcher, which it's one of my favorite movies from back in the day. Rutger Hauer, just a fun, good suspense horror movie. And so this is, and the movie is basically kind of along those same lines. The article goes through the plot synopsis, but yeah, this is one of those movies that looks like it could be a lot of fun, devoid of any type of finger wagging in your face political messaging that is rife in damn near everything Hollywood puts out nowadays. This is a story about an actual strong woman that is going to try to take revenge on a violent attacker. And that's the character that Gina is portraying in this, which is probably why they got, Eric Red, who did The Hitcher. And I think the book this is based off of, I think it's White Knuckle.
Yes.
Is his book that was to the story. So it's very much in the vein of The Hitcher. So I'm stoked about this. And yes, you're right. The more that we get this kind of stuff out there, I think the better it's going to get, especially, to harken back to how we started this show today, talking about people like Bob Chapek, who are more business-minded people. These are not Hollywood people, just like David Zaslav is coming in. This is why John Stankey brought this kind of guy in, because it's like, you know what? The problem with Hollywood studios is that they're being run by Hollywood people. So if we go out there and we get more business-minded people to say, let's just make a good story first that people want to see, and not try to be preachy, not try to alienate half our audience, not call half of our audience, Yahtzees or whatever else, or other kind of BS. This is where Hollywood needs to get back to. Just get out of all that business. Stop trying to drive cultural norms, or stop. Just create good content, create things that people want to see and that people are willing to pay for. This is where this Daily Wire thing is going, and that's what I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think that this article is actually pretty surprisingly positive in her favor, and I think it makes the movie and the whole situation look good in a better light than a lot of other things have lately. And I think this is maybe a sign of things that are changing. Daryl Brewer has a complaint, though. Sorry to hear this, Daryl.
Yeah,
says, my complaint is you don't have Mandy or Lorraine on. Did we send the ladies the link?
No, not today, but we do all the time, and they have a hard time showing up at this time.
I know, I was going to say, Mandy is clear now because of her school thing. I forgot to send her the link, but I don't even know if she's awake. But yeah, we'll definitely try and have her on Monday.
Also that.
Dash Attack says, I want Venom to do well because having a rival... Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, but we
had another one,
this one. Yeah. Rao On. Who says, Bonjour, monsieur. I just got here and trying to catch up at 1.5 speed. How dare you misgender me? Yeah, because Dorawan is a woman. Hail,
So
chat
sorry.
and wrenches. Viva la Midnight Edge.
I don't know if I
thank
did,
you so
but
much.
if I did, I apologize.
And if I did, I apologize. We know perfectly well that you are a woman. And then we have a fun question here to round us out for the day. Tom, you want to grab this one, or Valiant? You want to
No.
give it a try?
Yeah, I'm like,
Is that
okay,
Greek?
put the jokes away.
No, it's actually Swedish.
I was about to say
And
it looks Swedish or Norse.
yes, yeah. No, when you see like those O's with those little dots,
Right.
and same with that A with that little dots, like that's a dead giveaway that it's Swedish. And what Sirkmeister wonders is, hey, what are your thoughts about why it's a constant question about inclusion of race, but not of nationality, language, and thoughts as an opinion? So basically, why it's so important to have diversity of race, but not to have diversity of nationality, language, or opinions.
Well, it's that last one. It's the lack of diversity of thought. That's the biggest problem with Hollywood. They are. I mean, they are the most collective, hive-minded bunch of Borg that you will ever meet. And I mean, it's just cut and paste from nowadays. One franchise to the next. Gender swap things, skin color swap things, sexual orientation swap things. Try to put out the same IPs that have been around, but just change them to where they fit some kind of hashtag Twitter narrative. But absolutely, unequivocally, at no point may you deviate from the approved method of thinking. Ever.
Well, and I hope that way is changing. I really do.
Yeah.
So, all right. With that, there's only one other thing we have before we close things out today. I don't know if you have to run right now, Valiant, but we got a first look at this guy, Moon Knight.
Yes, nice.
There
He
you
looks
go.
very good.
Oh, cool.
I know this is a character you're excited about, Andre, so I thought you'd like to see this. So there you go. There's your first look at Moon Knight.
I'm reasonably excited about Moonlight, and I have to say he looks pretty good there. You can like totally tell like the ancient Egyptian influence and stuff like that. So yeah, looking good, looking cool.
Does he walk like an Egyptian?
Well, that it's difficult to tell from the still, but yeah.
Walk like an Egyptian. We got a couple of super chats fired in here at the last moment. Michael Strelitz says a new series called The Y Man. I heard it should be called the W Woke Man. Oh yeah, by the Y the
yeah,
last.
it's based
man
on the
Earth.
comic
Yeah.
book Why the Last Man. That's actually a really great comic. This is not the time in history to do this adaptation. If anything came out at the wrong time, it's that one. And Mr. Tickle Trunk says Happy Friday the 13th, which I hadn't really thought about, but yeah, it actually is Friday the 13th today. So yeah, excellent. So everyone have a great Friday the 13th. And with that, I would like to say thank you to Valiant Renegade for dropping by and sharing your analysis with us. That is most appreciated.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Always a pleasure to be here. Sorry, my power supply on my camera this past week has been deciding to just go bananas on me. So a lot more than usual. So I'm going to have to get that fixed up. But glad to be here. Everybody in the chat, good to see you all. Still about 1,000 people or so in here. And make sure you grab the like button before you leave.
Yes,
and share it out. And then when you're done, if you would be so kind, go check out the video that I did with Cameron. Posted it this morning. Cameron Pasha. It's a little long. The first 15 minutes is a narrative piece. And the 25 or so minutes after that is a discussion on that with Cameron. And what we are talking about is Kevin Feige ain't as indestructible as a lot of people would like you to believe.
Exactly. That's a great video. Valiant Renegade has a great channel. You will find the link to it in the description. Yeah. Tom, is there anything else that people should be watching?
I'm not sure what's all going on tonight with Friday Night Tights. I think there's going to be something other than that. Like Mr. Tickle Trunk says, rub yourselves on the like button. I want to thank Six and Mr. Tickle Trunk. Oops, sorry about that, Andre. I don't know what you.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Here's the video for Valiant Renegade. I should imagine that looks about right, but then most looks the same.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk.
I just want to thank the mods for hanging in there all day. Oh, we got another super chat from STR Red Wolf. Under 2-hour stream. What in the world? What is the world coming to? Koalas getting soggy?
Well, it's Friday the 13th. We just said it.
Yeah, it's Friday the 13th.
There's somebody mentioned in the chat about classics. Did you get them all, Andre? All the classic super chats? Okay.
Yes, we got all the classics. All the classics that we got. If we missed one or something, then
please let us know real quick.
Let us know right now, but I think we got them all.
Yeah, I happened to glance over and saw that somebody mentioned it. I just wanted to make sure because I know you guys are sticklers for making sure everybody gets treated.
I don't know which one we're doing, Lindsay, but yeah, this has been fun. We're gonna do another dry run of this, I think, later on tonight. On Jesse Miller at the Crow's Nest, my Mead partner in crime, and you've seen him on the main channel here as well. On his channel, we're going to be doing a table read. I think we're going to do the Freddy versus Jason crazy script because I don't know if we were able to find a Friday the 13th.
Oh, that's fun.
Talk to him yet, but yeah. And I believe he picked one that, oddly enough, David Show wrote, which Robert knows David Show. So he's the guy who wrote The Crow and stuff. So, yeah. So we'll see. That's a batshit crazy script, though, if that's the one he grabbed. That's the one that has Jason driving a Ferrari or whatever.
Oh, my God. I don't even remember that one at all.
Oh, every major person in Hollywood wrote a version of Freddy versus Jason, but this one was the most craziest because you had a cult of Freddy worshippers called Fred Heads, and you had some people whose friend got killed, so they resurrect Jason by putting his heart into Jason so they can control Jason.
Oh my God.
So it's like, yeah, it's a crazy fucking script. But anyway, check it out tonight. Maybe we'll get a chance to hear that.
Right,
with that, Andre, anything else going on? I know we have a video coming out very
soon. We
soon.
have some scripted videos coming for you next couple of days, so just stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, check out Midnight's Edge After Dark. Check out Midnight's Edge Espanol, and we'll catch you all on the flip side. And with that, I believe it's time for some marsupials in trepidation or
the inclement weather.
Yeah, exactly.
Precipitation.
Yeah. In hostile weather conditions.
Maybe I'll do some meter radio.
Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koalas in the rain.